Well, this is your warning. There will be there will likely be minor spoilers for the movie Turning Red, and because and also there will be Facebook craziness at the beginning. But let's go on to that intro. So some of you might remember that last year I did a movie or I did a video on the evangelical. Damn it, Noodle! Damn it! Well, I mean, we are talking about a Pixar film, so I doubt there are very many 18 plus spoilers. But anyways, so last year, I did a video on the Pixar panic in regards to Luca, and well, another year, another Pixar movie, another panic. Now, last year I had called the Pixar panic phenomenon something akin to the evangelical version of the Summer of the Shark. Honestly, my opinion of it is more nowadays is more along the lines of Fundegelicals are kind of feeling betrayed by Pixar ever since Coco came out. So they're like they're over critiquing everything Pixar does now, and they just want to burn Pixar to the ground because how dare they, not make movies like, not how dare they not be the only wholesome thing they can show their kids anymore. That being said, I'll get into it in more detail a little bit later, but in my opinion, the panic around Turning Red is actually a little bit kind of justified in a certain way. I view it as like an actual kind of legitimate panic. I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying it's understandable from a certain point of view, and that's not, the point of view where you're high off Jesus crack. Now, so to give a TLDR on my position on the outrage over Turning Red specifically, I don't think the stated reasons they're panicking over it are legitimate. However, I can, like, as an ex-evangelical, as an ex-Fundegelical, I can see the place it's coming from, and under that mindset, it's understandable. And of course, hello to Hello to Natasha, hello Noodle, hello Scummer, and of course, hello anyone else who is lurking in the chat and or watching in the future. So, let's go ahead and start out with a Facebook post that I feel covers the main talking points. And fun fact, this Facebook post was actually posted like hours after it dropped on Disney Plus. Like however, I will say in order to, not be a total douche nozzle and protect anonymity, I did copy and paste it into a Word document. But yeah, it was literally posted at 8:04, like at 8 in the morning on the day it dropped. But without further ado, so parents beware. I don't usually do this because of the straight up ruthless and vicious hatred I've been getting below, but here we go. Just a heads up to all the parents out there. The Disney, okay, first correction, it's technically not a Disney movie. Yes, while Pixar is under the Disney umbrella, they're both very much their own studios, so it always irritates me when I see a Pixar movie being called a Disney movie. Yeah. Yeah, you've probably seen it in the same group I stumbled across it, Noodle. But anyways, the Pixar movie Turning Red is not for kids at all, especially not for families trying to keep their children close to Jesus. Okay, so once again, this actually is kind of a point. This is kind of almost a legitimate point, but I'll get into that. Yes, I know Pixar movies don't instill Christian values, and I don't look to them to do so. But typically, there are important and valuable life lessons being taught. There is a moral, there, like most Pixar movies, there are morals to be picked up from Turning Red. However, the main moral, and it's funny because I haven't seen any Fundegelicals actually touching on this. The main moral is actually pretty antithetical to how Fundegelicals raise their children. You'll find the complete opposite in this movie. Sad day, Pixar. It had the potential to be so cute. Parents beware. It had the potential. Sorry, it is a very cute movie. Just a few things that stood out. The little girl talks about at age 13, you're your own person, an adult. You can do what you want, say what you want, etc. Yeah, because she's a 13-year-old. What 13-year-old doesn't think that? Her and her friends talk so poorly about their parents and come up with a plan to sneak out and go to a boy band concert, which they end up doing. So here we come into the It's promoting youth, it's promoting disrespect talking point. Which in a couple weeks we will actually also be touched on, because that's also mentioned in the school board meeting where the school board banned Mouse. So the girls sneak out to a co-ed party as well to give the boy to. I love how it's get in quotation marks. Give boys rides as a panda to raise money for the concert. So yeah, so basically, you know, plot is the protagonist starts going through puberty and discovers that it also means that she's essentially a were panda, were red panda. So, and she does like she they basically, hey, take a picture with the giant panda to raise money for school. And there are shots of and she does go to this party because it, for reasons, um, plot and financial reasons. And yes, there are shots of the panda, essentially doing pony rides. I mean, okay. I'm sorry. I just love how there's the air quotes there. Yeah, one girl says her parents won't let her go because the band sounds like stripper music. It's a boy band. How many? Okay, so how many people who have had like conservative parents complain about modern music, saying it sounds indecent or it sounds like stripper music? The girls talk about going to the concert as girls, but leaving as true women after. Okay, like I was never a teenage girl, but it's a rite of passage thing. When you're a teenager, when you're a preteen, you have a very skewed idea of what it means to be an adult. And the movie is from the perspective of it follows the perspective of the protagonist. So the word crap is used. And so much emphasis is put on her friends encouraging her to be this new rebel she has become and embracing it. That she no longer has to be the straight edge overachiever girl under her parents' wings. So much rebellion is encouraged. So once again, yes. Yeah, Turning Red is a coming of age movie that is also about puberty. And okay. And here's where we get the cultural racism. The ritual is super freaky, where she is levitated by her chest into the air while surrounded by adults chanting, and spirits are called out of her. Yeah, so basically, because it's not exactly convenient to have this ability to turn into a giant panda in, the modern day, now that you don't have to fight off bandits like every few weeks. Yeah, the like basically they have to, yeah, like part of the plot is the parents are like, hey, we're gonna have to exorcise this panda spirit out of you so you can be a normal person. And actually this kind of touches on why I'm why I say the moral of this movie is antithetical to fundegelical doctrine. but we're we got to get through this first. She tells her Tamagotchi that it's about to meet its daddy and uncles, referring to the band members being her Tamagotchi's daddy. It, like, once again, teenage girl stuff. um yes, that it's a movie about puberty where the protagonist is female. And then, yep, she, there's, sexy art. There's quote unquote sexy art. It's you what you see on screen is very, very tame. She's just, yeah. At the end, the girl stands up to her mom and says she likes boys and music and gyrating. She says she's 13, so deal with it. Yeah, yeah, basically. um, Maylin starts twerk. Yeah, so okay, so I am going to get kind of spoilery because it makes sense in context. Because um the so at the end of the movie, the mom turns into a basically kaiju sized panda, because the jewelry that is keeping her panda's, the like necklace that's keeping her panda spirit uh, caged up breaks, and she's very angry, so she turns into a kaiju sized panda, and they've basically got to be they basically have to exorcise the mom. And so Maylin is basically antagonizing the mom to keep her in the circle. Um, yeah, and actually, uh, the Fundegelicals, or the people who don't like this movie for Fundegelical reasons, have really latched on to the fact that at the end of the movie, after the big climax, the little epilogue scene, Maylin goes from being a panda to being uh um she turned she's gonna go out karaokeing with her friends, so she turns back human, but she keeps the panda ears and the panda tail. And her mom goes, "Are you really going to go out like that?" And then she says, "My panda, my choice." And which is kind of funny, seeing as how a lot of these people were probably chanting something very similar when it came to vaccines and masks, but I'm not here to throw that kind of shade. And then, of course, here's the disclaimer: maybe none of this is a big deal to your family, and that's okay. No judgment here if you love the movie. I actually really love Turning Red. It's it's probably not an S tier Pixar movie, but I'd pretty solidly put it in A tier. It's one of the better ones, especially since Inside Out. I encourage you to watch it on your own if you have the time and make your own judgment. I was just caught very off guard while watching it and explaining all these things to my children in the moment and why we don't agree with them. If I had known this was all the movie entailed, we would have just skipped it altogether and enjoyed a different, light-hearted Disney movie. It seems this one was intended for teenagers, although I still don't agree with the message for teens. But Disney did not brand the movie for teens, and my littles were so excited to watch it. My little, if you think that's an appropriate thing to call your kids, we exist in very different online spaces. I was half noodle. I was half tempted to make a similar joke just now. Yeah. So that looks like your basic, Facebook Karen rant. But something interesting is the fact that while Focus on the Family via their plugged in review service didn't really take a side on the Luca conspiracy. They are not liking Turning Red. So let's see. So, and once again, so a little, we'll kind of skim through the plugged in review, and then I'll give my take on this real quick. So this is in the sexual sexual content. Another sensitive subject that Turning Red alludes to repeatedly, and one that is related to reproduction and anatomy, which is why we've included it in this section, is menstruation. When a pandatized May hides in the bathroom, her mother assumes that's the issue. We also see and hear references to menstrual pads. My mom also talks about the importance of protecting your petals and cleaning them regularly. We also hear references to cramps, and some might hear an echo of menstruation in the film's title. Let's see. Violent content. Let's see. Other negative elements. May starts acting in some un-May-like ways. I don't mean just turning into a panda. When her mother refuses to let her go to a concert, May decides she's going to anyways, and she spends much of the rest of the movie lying and hiding things from her parents. We learn that her grades have started to slip too. Later, throws her friends under the metaphorical bus to keep from getting in trouble with her mom. Let's see. Conclude. By the standards of other Pixar movies, Turning Red is a disappointment. Its own mother-daughter story skips the depth and maturity that's been such a Pixar hallmark, leading instead on a short-sighted do-your-own-thing ethos. Instead, in some ways, it's almost the grinning doppelganger of Brave. Turning Red starts where Brave ends, with May expressing an understanding that personal freedom and autonomy inherently need to be balanced with the needs of family and community. I am my own person, she says, but that doesn't mean doing whatever I want. Like most adults, I have responsibilities. But while Brave suggests that mature understanding was something that people grow into through adolescence, Turning Red suggests it's something we should grow out of. Let's see. Story lacks the nuance or the fortitude to show where May was wrong too. Movie suggests that while family values are well and good, the individual trumps all. That's not the only way Turning Red slips from Pixar's historically sky-high podium. While the story is entertaining, it's not engrossing. It's completely but not beautifully made. Fuck that comment. Okay, there is a lot of strategic stylization in Turning Red, and if anyone knows me or if anyone saw our episodes on animation, they know I'm all in for the strategic stylization, especially like I'm really liking the fact that strategic stylization is starting to make its way into 3D animation, and it's kind of mellowing me out on my there's too much 3D animation opinion right now. But while many of Pixar's best didn't have a wit of plugged-in content concerns, this has plenty from its spirituality. So once again, there's your cultural racism. Your cultural Judeo-Christian superiority, because Malin's Chinese, so they don't like the fact that that it's not just all Christian God all the time, or doesn't even touch on and then to Frank's sexual sides to a few crass words and phrases. So, yeah. Sure, you can find plenty of worse fare out there for children. Turning Red didn't have me turning red, but it didn't leave me tickled pink either, and given Pixar's lofty pedigree, that left me feeling rather blue. So, and there's also like other review about like from Plugged In saying why Encanto is a lot better than Turning Red. I may go over that later. I'll see how you guys feel about it. But so here's why I feel like this round of evangelical panic is somewhat justified from a certain point of view, because basically the central moral of Turning Red is antithetical to what Fundegelicals want their children to live like. And especially in regards to the more charismatic sects of Fundegelical Christianity. And for those of you who aren't really aware, or who are new to the channel, what I mean when I say Fundegelical, it's literally just a portmanteau of fundamentalist and evangelical. But basically, when the so all throughout the movie, all throughout the beginning of the movie, all the adults uh in May all the adults who are in the know in Maylin's life. So basically her parents and then her granny and her aunts when they show up. Are telling Maylin that the panda has to be suppressed until it can be exercised. The panda is a dark, scary, dangerous thing that needs to be purged. That needs to be purged from you, and it is literally exercised out. Literally exercised out. But the but the moral is that the messy, scary things about that make you who you are, these feelings and emotions that come along when you grow up aren't necessarily bad. They're things that you like. There and Natasha, we literally did an episode on Encanto like a couple weeks ago. But oh yeah, no, seriously, the panda, like turning into a panda, it's literally lycanthropy as puberty metaphor, and it's really blatant about it. But so the moral that's eventually reached is these parts of yourselves that come out as you are growing up, while they can be scary and inconvenient, they're not something to be afraid of. They're something to be embraced as part of you. And that, in regards to the aspects of someone's identity that tend to develop as they're going through puberty, or as they're reaching and going through puberty, those aren't very well looked at in regards to fundegelical Christianity. Though those aspects are very much you have to burn it away and purge it from your life, lest you be living in sin. It can be seen as a coming out message. And once again, it's a coming of age movie. It's a coming of age puberty movie whose protagonist is a teen, a newly teenage girl, and it doesn't shy away from that fact. And so, I understand why the fundage, why there is a panic over turning red, because this one is actually in it at its core antithetical to the kind of control that they're trying to enforce in their own households. In fact, right after the opening montage where where you see Mei Lin go through her first day of school, um, or go through a day at school with her friends, you know, she's got to go back to, she's got to go back home to help out at the temple, and and as she's, as after she leaves, one of her friends says to the others, she's so brainwashed. And that line hit me like right to my core. um but it's it's very much calling out the kind of strict over parenting. Exactly. Yeah, Turning Red is very much calling out the kind of strict, the over strict, over controlling kind of parenting that tends to run in evangelical households. And with and it and basically it's like it's it's about learning to become the learning how to become the person that you are becoming. And it's about, and the arc for the parents is, essentially they're going through the, hey, your kid is starting to become their own person, and make your peace with that. And another thing that Turning Red does really, really well is it kind of shows it shows a little bit of the generational snowball effect, of this kind of cycle of parenting, because uh or after um after Maylin accidentally turns into a panda at school, she her grandma calls her mom, and you watch and you can see on her face the mom is legitimately having a panic attack because the grandma's calling. And so uh those are my thoughts, particularly tied to this, you know um to this panic. The emotion, like the way I see it, is the emotion behind this particular Pixar panic is legitimate. However, their basic their reasoning, but the reasoning that they're giving isn't really. They're basically falling back on the old, it's crude, it's crass, it needs, so that's why we need to cut off our kids from it. Stand by that you know that is so particular to when American fundamentalist Christians want to get something banned, or want to make sure that they can say that it's not okay to consume this kind of media. Because, if you look at it, it's always, even Focus on the Family made a big to do about the sexual overtones. And I mean, they, you know, the protagonists coo over go all gaga over a boy band. They, they it like what you can like what sexual overtones are there are basically teenagers being teenagers, and it's really tame at that. Like, it's not older teenagers being older teenagers. It's you're just kind of stepping into these kind of feelings. And yeah, basically, or rather, in the words of in the immortal words of the Music Man, see, you got trouble right here. You got trouble right here in River City. With a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. You're basically, and so on now, I don't know. So that was my thoughts on this Panic. I don't know. Do you guys want to like hear my thoughts on the movie? I'm prepared to give a rough overview of how I feel about the movie. Like I said, it's I put it as a solid A tier. It's not okay. So in regard, okay, so what I mean by Pixar Panic, it seems like every year, since Coco came out, at least, and of course, everyone knows Pixar releases a movie every year. Well, every year after Coco came out, evangelicals have been getting up in arms about, about the latest Pixar movie. And that's why I'm calling it a Pixar Panic, because it's like clockwork basically nowadays. Also, before I get into how I feel about the movie, I'm going to say once again that, or I'm going to point out another thing about the Fundegelical reaction. So when you see people calling out the spiritual and occult aspects of Turning Red, that I'm pretty sure you can just call that racism, or at the very least cultural imperialism, because it's literally just, oh no, it's demonic because it's Chinese. That's basically what references, like if one of these Panic posts has references to spiritual or occult elements, it's basically, oh, it's demonic because it's Chinese. Now, as to how I feel about the movie. Now, while I can definitely say that for obvious reasons, there aren't a lot of things that I can really relate to. They're like, I don't have the life experience to speak to several of the themes now, so I'm not going to go too in depth into this. I can very much see Turning Red being its own Media Musings episode. But growing up as I did, I still really connected with it. Also, it's very nice to see that we seem to be entering a constructive period of animation that's not being spearheaded Oh, yeah, see. Well, yeah, see that's the thing. That they're not chanting in Latin or speaking in gibberish. They're chanting in Chinese. So that's why it's scary and demonic. Though the shaman that kind of leads the exorcism explains that they're only really chanting in Chinese because the grandma is old school. Um, in a bit of foreshadowing for the conclusion, for the climax, um, the shaman explains that it can be anything as long as it's sung as long as it's sung from the heart. And then he says, I actually I actually do these to Tony Bennett, but your grandma is old school. um yeah. But anyways, my quick overview on Turning Red. um it I can't talk about it very much on a thematic level, because obviously I didn't have any kind of upbringing um that would really where my experiences would be really a put me in a condition where I can say one way or another how these situations are portrayed. um Having grown up in a very strict controlling, in a strict fundagelical household, the overparenting aspects of it really, really hit a chord with me, and I really liked that. Um, and once again, it's got it is really nice to see that we are entering an era of animation, or a constructive era of animation, that is not being spearheaded by Disney or Pixar. And it's gonna feel really weird that I'm saying that in a reaction to a Pixar movie. But I see, like, I can see a lot of inspiration, both thematic and technical, having been lifted from Into the Spider-Verse. And looking back on Encanto, I did see some elements there as well, where studios are starting to play with strategic stylization in a 3D context. And that's actually kind of getting me excited for computer generated animation, which I've like anyone who's talked to me about animation will know that I've been lamenting the death of 2D animation, like, basically since the 2010s. And and like especially there, yeah. Yeah, you can say that, or like I said, or like my take is, it basically it basically, the moral is, like, completely antithetical to how Fundegelicals really want their kids growing up, because Malin breaks the cycle. Spoiler warning: Malin breaks, the cycle, and that's kind of seen as that's basically the triumphant end to the movie. Is, she's breaking the cycle of the over strict, controlling, exercise the messy bits of you kind of upbringing that she was going under. But in terms of why I say, I see a lot of Spider-Verse from this, well, or I see a lot of Spider-Verse in this. I mean, you can, obviously there's the comparison in using, body changes, like body changes as puberty metaphor. It is a very similar story thematically in terms of coming of age and coming into your own as a person. But what really sinks that in is the fact that Turning Red really leans into the strategic stylization. While Spider-Verse pioneered it with making everything look, by making, everything look like a comic book, and really leaning into the comic book aesthetic for certain scenes. Turning Red does that kind of anime-ish, and it really leans into it when emphasis is needed. And once again, Encanto also does go into the strategic stylization, but instead of going for a different medium, it's a lot more subtle, because when Encanto gets all strategically stylized, they're lifting from older Disney canon, so it just kind of feels more like a Disney movie. And seeing strategic stylization become a go-to technique for animation studios for seeing big studios playing with strategic stylization in computer generated 3D animation, once again has me excited for 3D animation for like the first time in my life. And so, like, I definitely put Turning Red at a solid A tier when it comes to Pixar movies. So when it comes to animated movies in general, that kind of bumps it to maybe bottom of S tier. Like, for a Pixar movie, I'd say it's probably about an 8 out of 10. And for the most part, when you're talking a Pixar movie, most of Pixar's filmography is kind of like in between 10 and 11 when it comes to other animated films. And so that was my thoughts on the evangelical panic about Turning Red. That was my thoughts about or a quick overview of my thoughts on the film as a whole. I'd probably watch it again, even if I don't ever do a media musings on it. It's a really fun watch. Especially, as it doesn't really speak to an experience I have any business connecting with, aside from the whole parenting thing. But with that, tomorrow is we're doing The Godfather Part 1. The my appearance on Bree's channel got moved to the 27th. So there's that. And sometime soon, me and Noodle will get online to do our live-ish reaction to the Lord of the Rings Amazon trailer. And I get to talk about the some like, yeah, I mean, if I am going to talk, if I am going to do a Media Musings episode on Turning Red, I will definitely need to have someone who has AFAB, and possibly also someone who was, of Chinese descent, at the very least culturally. Good to know about that. And with that, I think we can go ahead and say, remember, indoctrination is a hell of a drug. Because technical things.